There is an economy larger than Japan, bigger than Germany, bigger than India, and it doesn't exist, at least not on paper. It employs over 2 billion people, yet generates no official employment statistics, no tax revenue records, no GDP contribution. Roughly $11 trillion every single year. How is this possible? It's called the informal economy, the shadow economy, the unobserved economy. And when most people hear those words, they think of this: cartels, money laundering, dark web marketplaces, illegal arms deals. That's the story governments tell. But it's almost entirely wrong. According to the International Monetary Fund, over 80% of the shadow economy has nothing to do with crime. 80%. So what is it actually? It's the neighbor who fixes your roof for cash. No invoice, no receipt. The street vendor who sells breakfast every morning. No business license, no tax ID. The grandmother who watches 3 kids while their parents work. No contract, no paperwork. This is the real invisible economy. Ordinary people, ordinary work, just off the books. And it didn't appear overnight. After the Second World War, nations rebuilt their formal systems. Tax codes, labor laws, business registration. These systems worked for some, but for a street vendor in Lagos, the formal economy was a locked door. Registration fees they couldn't afford. Licenses that took months to obtain. Inspections they couldn't pass. The cost of entry was higher than the business itself. So people made the only rational choice. They operated outside the system, not because they were criminals, because the system was designed against them. And this decision replicated across every continent. In Latin America, over half the workforce is informal. In sub-Saharan Africa, the number is even higher. In some nations, nearly 90% of workers operate completely unregistered. But this isn't just a developing world story. In Greece, the shadow economy exceeds 20% of GDP. In Italy, it's roughly the same. Even in the United States, the IRS estimates over $500 billion in unreported income annually. $500 billion every year from one country. But here's where the story shifts. The conventional narrative says this is a problem, a disease that needs to be cured. Governments spend billions trying to shrink it. The World Bank designs formalization programs. The IMF publishes reports on how to eliminate it. Then 2008 happened. The global financial system collapsed, and the invisible economy revealed its true function. As formal businesses fired millions, the informal economy absorbed them. People who lost formal jobs didn't stop working. They drove for cash, sold food from home, offered services without licenses. The invisible economy became the only economy available. Then came 2020. The pandemic shut down formal systems overnight. And again, the invisible economy kept people alive. Informal mutual aid networks appeared within hours. Cash transactions continued when digital systems failed. Unregistered food distribution reached people that government programs couldn't. The formal system took weeks to respond. The informal system took hours. This wasn't a coincidence. In Venezuela, hyperinflation destroyed the formal currency. The informal economy became the only functional market. People traded directly, bartered, used foreign currency under the table. In Zimbabwe, the banking system collapsed entirely. Informal trade networks kept food moving into cities. In Lebanon, the 2019 financial crisis triggered the same pattern. The formal economy broke. The invisible economy didn't. This observation forced a reconsideration. What if the shadow economy isn't a failure? What if it's the formal system's backup plan? Some researchers now call it an economic immune system. When crisis attacks the formal economy, the informal economy activates. It absorbs shock, redistributes resources, keeps people alive. And the evidence is surprising. A 2019 study in the Journal of Economic Behavior found countries with larger informal economies recovered faster from financial crises. Not slower, faster. The informal economy acted as a stabilizer. This contradicts decades of policy, but it doesn't mean the invisible economy is harmless. Workers in the shadow economy have no unemployment insurance, no workers' compensation, no retirement plan. One injury can destroy a family. So the real question isn't whether the informal economy is good or bad. The question is why so many people choose it over the formal alternative. And the answer is uncomfortable. For many, the formal economy offers nothing worth the cost of entry. Taxes that fund services they never receive. Regulations that protect corporations more than workers. Bureaucracy that consumes time they can't afford to lose. In many developing nations, the formal economy is a toll booth. You pay to participate, but the road is still broken. So people build their own road. And that road now carries $11 trillion a year. Which brings us to what's happening right now. Governments are launching a quiet war against the invisible economy. And they have new weapons. Digital currencies, cashless payment systems, real-time transaction tracking. The technology meant to make life easier also makes visibility inevitable. In China, cash transactions are nearly obsolete in major cities. And with that shift came something unprecedented. The ability to see every exchange, every transaction, every economic breath. India tried a different approach. In 2016, the government withdrew 86% of all currency from circulation. Overnight, the goal was to eliminate black money, push India toward a cashless economy. The result was devastating for the informal economy. Day laborers couldn't get paid. Street vendors couldn't make change. Farmers couldn't buy seeds. The informal economy didn't disappear. It adapted. Cryptocurrency, barter, gold, foreign currency. The invisible economy is remarkably difficult to kill. Because it isn't an organization. It isn't a network with a central command. It's a pattern of human behavior. And that pattern predates every government on Earth. Before tax codes, before currencies, before nations, the informal economy is the original economy. The formal economy is the invention. And here's what almost no one is discussing. AI and automation will eliminate millions of formal jobs in the next decade. Where will those people go? The formal economy has no answer. There aren't enough new formal jobs to absorb them. But the invisible economy will absorb them. Like it always does. Without planning, without policy, without support. And those workers will have even fewer protections than today. Because the invisible economy is expanding. But the tools to monitor it are expanding faster. This creates a dangerous paradox. The more governments push to track economic activity, the more they risk destroying the safety net that catches people when the formal system fails. If you eliminate the backup system, you better be certain the primary system never breaks. And history suggests that certainty doesn't exist. So what's the actual solution? A growing number of economists argue for something counterintuitive. Don't eliminate the informal economy. Make it visible without punishing it. Recognize it. Measure it. Understand it. Then design policy around reality instead of ideology. Some countries are already experimenting. Colombia introduced simplified tax regimes for small informal businesses, reduced rates in exchange for basic registration. Participation was voluntary, and it worked. Thousands registered because the cost of entry finally made sense. Not through enforcement, through incentive. Other nations explored portable benefits, benefits that follow the worker, not the employer. Informal workers could access protection without a formal job. These approaches share one thing. They treat informal workers as participants, not criminals. But these programs remain small, experimental, marginal. The dominant approach worldwide is still enforcement and elimination. And the invisible economy continues to grow regardless. Because you cannot regulate away human survival. When people need to eat, they will find a way to transact. The question was never whether the invisible economy exists. It was always why we refused to see it. We lose the ability to protect the most vulnerable workers in the world. We lose the ability to design economies that serve everyone. We lose the ability to understand why our formal systems keep failing. $11 trillion is not a small number. It's a signal, a message from 2 billion people about how the world actually works. And we've been ignoring it. The next time you pay someone in cash, tip a waiter, buy something at a yard sale, you're participating in something ancient, something that predates every government, every tax code, every regulation ever written. The invisible economy isn't going anywhere. The only question is whether we'll finally admit it's there.